Hello. So today I'm going to be talking about the first part of section 2.4.1, which is on databases. So believe it or not, the government, both federal and local, has been collecting our personal information. The intended purpose of this data collection is to aid the government in performing all of their basic functions. This includes things such as eligibility for government programs, detection of fraud, collecting taxes, and a lot more. Pretty much everything they do is aided with collecting our data. While this practice has good intentions, it also poses a threat to our liberties and privacy. This data can be used against you in many ways, such as providing the necessary information to arrest, jail, and even seize your assets. Due to these threats, it is reasonable to expect high standards from our government when it comes to keeping this data secure and using it wisely, but quite frequently, they don't meet these standards. The Privacy Act of 1974 was created to keep in check the government's use of our personal information. This act defines a lot. Uh, this act defines um, a lot to aid in our privacy. It restricts the government to only collect data that is relevant and necessary to whatever it needs to do. It Record systems must be published in the Federal Register so that the public knows that it exists. People must be able to access and even correct their records. Security measures must be implemented to protect sensitive information in these databases, and the disclosure of information about a person requires his or her consent. The GAO is an agency that audits the use of all this data. Over the years, they produce studies that show there's a lack of compliance with the Privacy Act. They've discovered such things that the White House was using a secret database. When they surveyed 65 government websites, they found that only 3% fully complied with the act, and that various government agencies have been using data mining techniques that also do not comply with the Privacy Act. Now, everyone's favorite agency, the IRS, unsurprisingly has information on almost everyone in the country. There used to be a huge problem with the IRS staff snooping other people's tax information. Thankfully, there's been laws with strict penalties that have sort of mitigated a lot of this activity. While this has improved things with the IRS, information is still not being kept secure. Um, in an audit conducted by the GAO, roughly 50,000 laptops and other storage media were found to not be meeting the proper standards. This failure of compliance leaves our personal data exposed to hackers and disgruntled employees. Thankfully, the GAO has been working to improve things when it comes to the privacy of our data. They've been advocating for things such as having the Privacy Act cover all personally identifiable information that is collected by the government. They want to impose stricter limits on the use of personal information, and they're working on better ways to provide information for the public um, when it comes to government databases and privacy policies, since it's apparent that most people are not willing to go and browse the Federal Register in order to obtain this information.